I think it would be a good idea for people to begin talking about some of the root issues of the changes in global society being brought about by things like TikTok. There's a saying that some people say you don't have anything to hide and you won't be afraid of people watching you. Well, the truth is that it's not, properly speaking, a glasnost transparency feedback loop system when strangers and predators at large can just tap in and cyber stalk your activities online, your every movement. I'll give you an example that you probably relate to. Two adults hit it off. One of them has some guy or some girl or some uh, third or fourth gender individual who's been casing them to get their affections and failing. This person is imbalanced. And they watch, they peep. That's not glasnost and that's not transparency, that's invasion of privacy. Now, under the codes of Russian decorum, people who have self control are the ones who should be trusted with public affairs. It's not a good idea to have constantly public officials being dragged out and accused of groping. And you could argue that knowing them intimately is a sign of whether they can be trusted not to lust the heart, and so on and so forth. But the truth is that dignified people have public and private selves, and there's such a thing as privacy. And you have to know the company you keep and adjust accordingly. One does not allow oneself to think lewd and provocative ideas of diplomatic entities. And that's perhaps you're a comedian or you're a destructive personality in a cult all your own, not very um, good at anything but inciting problems. But to say that the freedoms should be curtailed, that citizens enjoy, because it might offend a diplomatic entity who's prying into their affairs, is abuse of home media. When Queer Seattle went along with Cornel West and Roger Waters' despicable Euro dictator Fandango about symbolic sacrifice and the right, the idea that children have no protection from illegal drafts and secret military cults of European espionage and should face death gratefully for having the attention of these foreign spies because of the black man and his black psychology. They went along with, for one thing, Lenin's Houdini. They didn't allow it to be challenged. For another, they went along with the idea that the writers of the script, Dexter School book, were entitled to be the propagandists behind its hidden agenda, all of which is um, clearly set up for World War III to be a face-saving gesture. People ask in the High Court of Allah, Why did you start World War III of these uh, monsters of Bravara? Well, we had to save face. We were caught in the fiendish stupidity of Lenin Sudini. And there was questions, if Iran Contra, the Ayatollah was really that hot, if Daniel Ortega was that Catholic that he didn't like the queers, why shouldn't the queers play for every man for himself? You see, this is UW Dialectical thrived. The people who released the attack thrived in this kind of belligerent, foolish mind game of wordsmith smackdown. When the only real issue was like children buried under Gaza, how do you get them out? How do you warn people of what's afoot? The creepies with Waters and West were all the one size fits all. Everybody be glad to go to heaven when they hear the new rock Beatles record. It's not a question of whether or not gays are welcome in Islamic society. It's a question of whether or not they're being told the truth and by people who want to preserve public safety. And they went around saying, "Oh, we get to spit in your food," and they were foolishly listening to what they believed was black psychology. I don't want to get into it very much anymore because it bogged down my efforts to answer because they're threatening and poisoning and killing bystanders, and I was trying to reason with fools. It's painstakingly brutal, hard labor. But there's no need to apologize to Muslim people for wanting to defend public safety. It has nothing to do with gays, it's people. And of course, the gays sided with the people who did it to them because they reject that argument. That's where UW Dialectical Spinner Beanies was uh, jumped down whole peepee. And of course, they get hopping mad when they are found out for going along with the people who did it because they reject the argument that people should be warned to protect themselves. They say, what about gay people? That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about warning gay people so they can be protected. No, one size fits all. We're going along with the cosmic plan, they replied. Well, there's no need to apologize to Israel or anyone else for trying to protect children of Gaza. There's no need to apologize to Seattle Queer for trying to get children protected from being buried alive. Now they will say, in our magnanimousness, we put aside the hostility of Muslims to agree with this gesture to protect the children of Gaza, and that's nice. But it's more complicated than that. The Jaffin people who tricked Owen Jones and got him sandbagging for the people who are murdering Gazan children also are producing his furious displays of opposition to murdering Gaza children. And there's only one explanation for any of that. And that's Robert Flippytoon's spinner beanie idea that virginity proves rape. Ooh. When you look at the way Ed Mitchell crocodile fingered for Yoko Ono the script that Gail Burstyn wrote so that Jeffin could vindicate Gail Burstyn by claiming Flippy Toon's idea that virginity proves right was an intercept, a staged and phony intercept by the people who came up with this, of a script that they wrote. Clark, Tillett, and Ciudini. And to save face in the matter, they want to start World War III. It's Brian Eno's specialty. It's being ludicrous.